Hey everybody, what's up? It is Christopher here, and today I wanted to talk about something that happened in 2020. I was writing, I'm working on writing a story, I guess you would call it a novelette, which is like shorter than a novel but longer than a short story. Um, about my history with mental illness, and as I was writing it, I got to the part in 2020 where I was extremely unwell. It still kind of blows my mind that I was like this back then. So in 2020, it was like it probably started in like February of 2020. I started getting very dissociated. I mean, like every day, all day, constant panic attacks because I thought that I wasn't real. I thought that everything around me wasn't real. I was living in an imaginary world, essentially. Um, and then in March of 2020, late March, I ended up in a psych hospital that I hadn't been to before. And it was like an hour and a half from my house. And the ambulance came and got me at nighttime to bring me there. So I was very disoriented already, and that just made everything worse because I didn't know like what direction we were going and I didn't know where I was going. I knew the name of the hospital, but that's about it. And when I got to the hospital, they wouldn't tell me like you couldn't see out the windows like anything that would help guide me into like where I might be. And I kept begging them to let me go on the walks because I was like, well, if I get to go on the walks, maybe I'll see something that'll help me figure out where I am. And when they finally let me go on the walk, like 2.5 days later, they said, well, you're not going to see much. We're surrounded by trees, which was true. So that wasn't helpful to me at all either. So I had a panic attack there every single day because they put me on a medication called Latuda, which is an antipsychotic, and they didn't tell me that it was the Latuda. I had to figure it out for myself because every day after I took the Latuda, like clockwork, an hour and a half after taking it, I had a massive panic attack. I thought I was dying. I called my mom crying every night, telling her I was dying and needed to go to a medical hospital. And I was telling her, they won't let me go, they won't let me go. And they had to talk to her on the phone, basically convincing her I was fine and my blood pressure was fine, my pulse was fine, and I was okay. And then we had the issue of the psychiatrist. I was convinced that my psychiatrist there was the congressman who flew to Jonestown to save the remaining victims. If you don't know about Jonestown, it was a massive cult where over 900 people died. Um, and so I was absolutely convinced of this, and I was very suspicious of him. Um, and then after I got out of the hospital, I continued the Latuda because at that point I hadn't really figured out it was Latuda yet that was causing panic attacks. So then I went home and I was only in there for 4 days and I lied to them to get out of there. Um, so when I got home, I continued to have the panic attacks because I was continuing the Latuda. And one day I was convinced I had the neuroleptic malignant syndrome that you can get from antipsychotics. And I was like, this is emergency. I have to go to the emergency room. So I convinced my mom to take me, and they were like, oh, it's a panic attack. And this was in the middle of COVID, like actually the very beginning where they were freaking out about it. So they gave me an Ativan, in pill form, and told me to go home and just rest. So they also told me not to take Latuda anymore. So I stopped that medication. 2 weeks later, I end up in a different psych hospital because I never got better being in the first one. I had lied to get out. So I get to this other psych hospital, and I've been there before numerous times. So I was like, well, this will be okay. At least I'll understand my surroundings. I did not. I had no clue what was going on. There was another patient there who said he remembered me from like January, and I was like, I have no clue who you are. And I was very scared because everything going on, I was just like, I don't understand this place. I know logically that I've been here before, but I don't understand where I am. and I was constantly crying, and it was just an absolute mess. I don't remember if they put me on a new medication there or not, but after I got out, I remember being put on Risperdal by my outpatient psychiatrist, and I stayed on that for a few months until they realized that my prolactin levels were that of a pregnant person. So I went off that pretty fast. But I think the Risperdal is what brought me out of the dissociation episode. I was in that for about 2 months, longest I've ever been in that. I've had other dissociation episodes, but nothing like that. I mean, that was massive. So I'm still perplexed as to how that happened and how that was brought about. But I'm really glad I'm not in that headspace anymore because that was really scary. Um, so I guess that's all I wanted to share. Just you know, give some information as to what's been going on since I wasn't making videos at that point. So yeah, thanks you for watching.